In order to stay in the big city, I abandoned my long-distance boyfriend and married someone else. But when I had a miscarriage in a car accident, my mother-in-law made excuses about not having money to pay the hospital fees, while my husband was fooling around with someone else. The one who paid the hospital fees for me was my clumsy-tongued ex-boyfriend. Upon graduating, I immediately got married and became a full-time housewife. My husband was introduced to me by my roommate. He's her well-known older cousin. He's honest and cares for his wife. During the 6th month of my pregnancy, after my husband accompanied me for a checkup, we passed by a maternity store. Impressed by the wide array of baby products and numerous discounts, I decided to register as a member on the store's website. That evening, Big Data pushed me parenting tips. However, it simultaneously sent my husband explicit adult advertisements. On the sofa, my husband lay browsing his phone, fixated on the provocatively dressed women in the push notifications. My mother-in-law handed me a bunch of grapes and kindly advised, Yen, don't spend too much time on the computer. Emits harmful radiation, not good for my chubby grandson. With a grim expression, I glared at my husband lying on the sofa, his lips curled up, completely oblivious to my anger. Sensing something amiss, my mother-in-law nudged him with her elbow, but he remained indifferent, completely forgetting that his phone was connected to the tablet in my hands. On the shared screen, a scantily clad woman flirted provocatively with a caption at the bottom, "Just $8.88, guaranteeing you'll have fun." As I watched a string of highlighted WeChat IDs being copied, I slammed the laptop shut with a stern face. Zhao Hao, are you disgusting? I'm carrying your child, and you're thinking about such things? The focal points of the woman on the computer screen were exaggerated, shaking on the screen. It was obvious to anyone what was going on. Zhao Hao was momentarily stunned, then he quickly realized what happened. He awkwardly tried to appease me. I was just casually looking. Don't make a scene. My mom is still here. It's embarrassing. My temper had worsened since becoming pregnant, and seeing Zhao Hao's nonchalant attitude infuriated me even more. If you're embarrassed, then don't look. Weren't you enjoying it just now? Since you came back until now, you've been lying on that sofa with a smirk on your face. Did you even care that I had no appetite tonight and barely ate anything? Did you notice how many times I vomited? My mother-in-law stood by, hesitant to speak. Zhao Hao impatiently closed the laptop and phone, wanting to take me back to our room. Let's talk in our room. My mom has raised me with difficulty. Don't upset her. My mother-in-law tried to placate me in a low voice. Yen, it's just a little browsing. Nothing serious. You're inconvenient with your pregnancy. It's understandable for a man to seek some pleasure. Women should be more generous, understanding men. Don't make a fuss. Be careful not to upset my chubby grandson. Hearing this, I exploded with anger. I knocked the plate out of my mother-in-law's hand. The crystal-clear grapes rolled onto the floor, scattering juice, shattered by my feet. You two, mother and son, putting on a show of maternal love and filial piety in front of me. Zhao Hao, don't talk to me about how hard your mom has had it. It was hard for her to give birth to you, not for me to enter your family. If you dare to engage in prostitution, I'll be the first to report you for breaking the law. The atmosphere in the living room was tense. Zhao Hao clenched his fists, ready to strike me. My mother-in-law quickly grabbed him. Are you crazy? If you scare my grandson, what will happen? Zhao Hao reluctantly calmed down, but I was trembling with fear. The shadows of my childhood flooded back at that moment, and I clumsily rushed out the door. Tears filled my eyes as I realized that the man who shyly promised to treat me well for a lifetime at our wedding had suddenly turned rotten. I crouched by the door, listening to the sounds inside the house, feeling colder than ever. My mother-in-law said, "Quickly go after Yen. It's windy at night and she's pregnant." Mom, forget it. Don't worry for nothing. We're miles away from her family here. Where could she possibly go wearing just slippers? Besides, her mom has been dead for years, and her dad is serving a life sentence. She has no relatives here. Where could she run off to? It's just that she's been spoiled too much, acting recklessly. I've had enough. Mom, just sit down and rest for a while. She'll be back soon. Listening to Zhao Hao's confident tone, I rebelled and turned to press the down button for the elevator. But as I stood on the overpass, looking at the bustling traffic, I couldn't find a place where I could feel safe. Since high school, I haven't had a home since my father accidentally killed my mother in a drunken rage and went to prison. Without my ID, I couldn't even stay in a hotel. A notification lit up on my social media, indicating that my college roommate Jia had updated her status. The picture showed her lying on the sofa, tilting her head back, wearing a well-tailored shirt with a few buttons undone, revealing a charming cleavage, with faint glimpses of the collarbone and a large tattoo on her arm. Her raised toes hooked onto high heels and black stockings wrapped around her long legs. The caption read, "Free tonight, wanna hang out?" Feeling like I'd caught a lifeline, I briefly explained my situation to Jia and asked if she could temporarily accommodate me. Jia's response was enthusiastic. She immediately sent me an address and told me to take a taxi over. Jia and I were college roommates, with me taking the upper bunk. We got along well during college, but after graduation, I got married and became a full-time housewife, while Jia focused on her career. If it weren't for Jia's matchmaking, Zhao Hao and I wouldn't have ended up together. Zhao Hao and Jia are actually distant relatives. However, their families don't seem to place much importance on relationships between relatives. After getting married, I focused on my family, and Jia and I drifted apart. Naturally, our relationship wasn't as close as before. Jia lived in a well-known trendy apartment building in the area, where rent was several thousand a month. When she saw me arrive, Jia warmly welcomed me into the house. "Have a seat. Your belly is so big now, you're about to give birth. I don't know why my brother argued with you like that. Doesn't he know that pregnant women need to be pampered?" No one had spoken to me so kindly in a long time, and I felt moved, choking up a bit, wanting to say something. But Jia's phone rang, interrupting me. On the other end of the call was an urgent male voice. In contrast, Jia's voice sounded quite pleasing. "Hey, presently, yes, not busy. Are you free tonight? That's great. I'll invite a few girlfriends, and we'll be right over. I wouldn't dare to neglect you. Presently, don't worry." Jia hung up the phone and looked at me sitting in her house, feeling embarrassed. "I have something urgent to deal with. I can't entertain you anymore. Those of us in this line of work are always busy. I'm really sorry, you see." Jia's job was similar to a mediator. She had been working part-time at a marriage agency since college, and it wasn't surprising that she continued this line of work after graduation. I knew that times were tough, and working overtime was common. So, I suggested, "Jia, why don't you go handle your business, and I'll just stay here for a while. I won't touch anything. I'll just find a place to rest. Is that okay?" After hesitating for a while, Jia heard a knock on the door outside, and a sharp voice called out, "I'm ready, Xiaomei. Hurry up, don't dawdle. If Li Gu gets impatient, who knows what tricks he'll play on us." In a hurry, Jia responded, "Hey, Xiaoli, stop rushing me. I'm coming." I found it strange why Jia's colleague would call her Xiaomei. But without much time to ask, I only managed to say, "Be careful on your way. It's late, and you're working the night shift. It's not safe for a girl like you. I'll wait for you to finish work." No need, no need. Jia hurriedly packed her things, not even looking back as she said to me, "I'll call Zhao Hao to come pick you up. You should go home. My place is too messy for you to stay here." Without giving me a chance to respond, Jia closed the door and left. I felt a wave of defeat wash over me. Despite being someone who cherished home life the most, I ended up homeless in the end. My phone rang and it was Zhao Hao calling. I didn't want to answer, so I kept hanging up. Finally, Zhao Hao ran out of patience and sent me a WeChat message. "Are you shameless? Refusing to leave someone else's house. If you're not embarrassed, I am. I'll wait for 10 minutes, and if you're not down by then, I'm leaving." I leaned against the window, watching the cars downstairs. In less than 5 minutes, the car drove away. Zhao Hao was losing patience with me. The phone rang again, and it was Jia. "Hello, Jia." My voice choked up, but it was noisy where Jia was, and she didn't notice. Yen, have you left? I might have to bring a friend home later, a guy, so it's not convenient, you?" The signal was poor, and the screen showed the call was disconnected. I understood Jia Jia's meaning of chasing me away, so I left her house. After locking the door, I sent her a WeChat message. "I've left. Sorry to disturb you." I used to think that as long as I worked hard to maintain my family, I could live a good life. But I never expected it to be just a misconception. I wandered aimlessly on the streets, dazzled by the bright lights. This area was remote, and many foot massage parlors had opened up, adorned with colorful lights at the entrance, looking quite unsavory. The women wearing revealing clothing probably came from all over, speaking in unrefined Mandarin at the door, handing out suggestive little cards. I felt disgusted and scornful. As I got closer, a strong scent of perfume mixed with alcohol hit me, making me feel even more nauseous. I was already suffering from severe morning sickness, and now I was dry heaving on the side. In my discomfort, I noticed a car parked nearby, and it was Zhao Hao's car. Feeling desolate, I looked at the less than reputable shop and couldn't calm my mind. I stubbornly dialed his number, only to hang up time and time again, as if retaliating for what he had just done. I clenched my phone, wanting to go in and confront him, but I was stopped by the greeter. "Sorry, we don't serve pregnant women. Some essential oils are not good for the baby." Concerned for my child, I backed away from a distance. My mind was in turmoil. On one hand, I wondered if Zhao Hao was just tired and came for a foot massage, but on the other hand, I remembered his lingering interest in those erotic ads earlier today. When Zhao Hao and I were dating, he always wanted to take things to the bedroom. At the time, he explained it as being too in love with me to resist. I understood. After becoming pregnant, I was cautious about everything, naturally not letting him touch me again. I was worried that he might indulge himself and make the same mistakes that all men do. Just as I was pondering, a familiar voice rang out. "Let's go, darling. Whether it's home-ins or Hanting, it's up to you to choose." "Ugh, can't we go to Vienna?" Sure, it's all up to you." Sure enough, it was Zhao Hao. He was hugging a voluptuous woman as they emerged from the shop. He hurriedly opened the car door and shoved the woman inside without even acknowledging me standing nearby. I was angry and disgusted once again, yelling angrily, "Zhao Hao, are you blind?" Zhao Hao shivered all over at the sound of my voice and looked visibly startled when he saw me. The woman in the car stuck her head out and asked, "Zhao Ge, who's this pregnant woman? Are we still going or not?" Her voice was sharp, clearly the same colleague who had called Jia Xiaomei outside the door. Zhao Hao didn't answer. He just rolled up the car window, locking the woman inside. It seemed like he was determined to relieve himself tonight. Zhao Hao dragged me aside, exasperatedly accusing me of ruining his good time. He shoved his wallet into my hand, his tone impatient. "Take the money and leave. I'll do whatever I want tonight, and you don't need to worry about it. You're too delicate, afraid of hurting the baby, so you won't let me touch you. It's been 6 months already. Even good people would get sick from being pent up. Be sensible. I won't argue with you anymore. Go home and tell my mom I'm not coming back tonight." As he spoke, his eyes kept darting towards the car, his impatience evident. I dry heaved again. He wanted to leave, but I blocked his path. I stood in front of him, anger boiling inside me, and began speaking without restraint. "The child in my belly is yours, and we are married. If you dare to spend money on other women, it's adultery and soliciting prostitution within marriage, which is a real violation of the law. Either divorce me, and I won't bother you anymore, or you let that woman go, and we go home together." I spoke forcefully, but I was already conceding. Yet, Zhao Hao sneered and pushed my hand away, his breath smelling of alcohol. "Stop kidding around, it's not funny. Look at you, swollen like a pig, covered in stretch marks. What right do you have to demand anything from me? I've been good to you enough already. If you don't behave, I'll beat you to death like your dad beat your mom." He casually uttered terrifying words, successfully freezing me in place with fear. He started the car to leave, and I rushed through the alley, chasing after his car desperately, like a lost soul. I stretched out my hands to block the approaching car, determined to make a decision. "Get out of the car, Zhao Hao. It's over, let's get a divorce." Inside the car, Zhao Hao and the woman in the passenger seat laughed and pointed at me, showing no intention of slowing down. The car brushed past me, knocking me to the side. I fell to the ground, the lingering exhaust fumes making me cough uncontrollably. As the commercial street was still under development, there were few passers-by. I didn't know how long it took for someone to notice me and take me to the hospital. The doctors and nurses pushed me into the emergency room, repeatedly dialing Zhao Hao's number, but the cold mechanical voice announced that his phone was switched off. The child couldn't be saved and needed immediate surgery. My mother-in-law arrived relatively quickly but hesitated when she heard the doctor say the child couldn't be saved, making excuses and not wanting to pay for medical expenses. I don't understand. What money? I don't have any money. I don't know the person inside. I lay on the hospital bed, and I noticed the bank book my mother-in-law was clutching tightly. It wasn't a matter of not understanding. She had come for the sake of the child in my belly. Now that the child was gone, she wouldn't be willing to spend a single penny on me. I closed my eyes, tears of pain streaming down my face. When I opened my eyes again, my mother-in-law had already left. The nurse kindly covered me with a blanket and told me that a kind passerby had paid for my hospitalization fees and arranged for a caregiver for me to rest assured. There wasn't a single missed call on my broken phone, and it wasn't yet dawn. The caregiver helped me to the automatic inquiry machine, and I checked the balance on my hospital card. It had been topped up about half an hour after I was admitted to the hospital, with some odd numbers, totaling 86,300 yuan. Here, I didn't know anyone, and I couldn't imagine what kind-hearted person would help a stranger like this with such a large sum of hospital fees. With odd numbers and whole numbers, it didn't seem like a spur-of-the-moment decision, but rather a heartfelt gesture. I wanted to go to the nurse's station and ask if the kind person had left a phone number, but I was too weak and had to lie back in the hospital room to rest. The hospital's night isn't quiet, but because of everything I experienced that day, I slept deeply. Losing the child was heartbreaking, but what saddened me the most was losing my home again. Since my first year of high school, I've relied on school assistants to get by. The teachers knew about my family situation and would fight for any scholarships for me, and they even provided me with free dormitory accommodation. The dormitory was nice, but it wasn't home. Since I was young, I've longed for a home of my own, with bright windows, a tidy dining table, and parents who love me. Because of the extreme lack, I yearned intensely to have. When I woke up, there was a bouquet of gardenia flowers on the bedside table. The fragrance filled the entire ward, bringing a bit of vitality. The caregiver didn't know who sent it, and I thought it was someone from another patient's family who was more sentimental. Zhao Hao came at noon, with his bleary eyes, untidy clothes, and a nervous look, all making me feel physically nauseous. Especially the faint smell of blood emanating from him. Before I could drive him away, he preempted me. He whispered in my ear, threateningly, "Don't tell anyone about what happened last night." I thought he was referring to him drunkenly knocking me down with his car, and I clenched my fists, wanting to curse at him. But then I thought, what's the point of cursing at such a shameless person? He didn't see my flat belly, didn't see that his child was no longer in this world. What reason did I have to argue with him? My eyes reddened, and I suppressed the urge to cry. I forced myself not to cry, at least not in front of this scumbag. I want a divorce. Now's not the time to talk about last night. Zhao Hao urgently wanted me to assure him, and I thought he was afraid of facing legal consequences for drunk driving. I took advantage of this to control him. "Let's divorce first. I don't want to talk about anything else with you right now." Zhao Hao's voice was somewhat hollow, probably from last night's excessive indulgence. "Okay, I'll go home to get the documents. We'll meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau later." I closed my eyes, letting tears fall. "Pack up my clothes too, and we'll sever all ties." There was no property division. I asked for 50,000 yuan for the abortion nutrition fee. Zhao Hao hesitated a bit when signing, probably feeling a bit stingy. But when I said, "If you don't want to sign, let's talk about what happened last night," he immediately signed and transferred the money. I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau with a 24-inch suitcase. Zhao Hao followed me out, warning me in a low voice, "What happened last night? Keep it to yourself. Don't tell anyone." Otherwise, you'll be alone here, and I have ways to deal with you. Zhao Hao dragged the suitcase into a taxi, seemingly going on a business trip. There was no trace of sentimentality, and that's how my 2-year marriage with him ended. I stayed in the hospital for a week, and after settling the discharge balance, there was still over 40,000 yuan left on the card, which was refunded to my bank account. I asked the nurse if the kind person who paid for my fees left contact information. I wanted to return the money to them. But the nurse said no, but they could check the surveillance footage. Maybe it was someone I knew. Then, I saw in the surveillance footage my former boyfriend, who failed the college entrance exam, saying he wasn't good enough for me. Li looked much darker than he did in high school, appearing even taller and more slender. I wondered why he wasn't in our hometown, but in this city that was tens of thousands of miles away. And I had no idea how he found out about my hospitalization. He hurriedly walked, bumping into several people, and the entire lobby was filled with his constant apologies. He paid the hospitalization fees in cash, taking out several stacks of banknotes from his faded backpack and placing them on the front desk. He also took out all the money from his pockets. Because he was too rushed, the pockets of his pants were turned inside out, and he forgot to turn them back. The surveillance footage was noisy, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. It seemed that the staff was trying to calm him down, but he stared blankly at the door of the emergency room, his eyes turning red. The staff returned some change to him, and he absent-mindedly put it in his pocket. Then he answered a phone call and hurriedly left. That's where the surveillance footage ends. Do you know this person? The nurse asked me with concern, but then she noticed that my face was covered in tears. Oh, don't cry, what's wrong? She asked, handing me a tissue. I sniffled and took the tissue from the nurse, thanking her repeatedly. How could I not know him? He was the first person who said he wanted to give me a home. Li and I were high school classmates. He grew up in an orphanage, studied physical education and athletics, and was always very tired. We were in different classes, only seeing each other briefly at the meetings where the school gave out subsidies to impoverished students. He was very cheerful and sunny, waving enthusiastically to me whenever he saw me on campus, like an enthusiastic golden retriever. Compared to his excellence, I seemed too dim. Hearing the daughter of a murderer from classmates from time to time made my already fragile teenage heart hurt even more. I always kept my head down, hoping no one would notice me. But I was still discovered. Competitive bullies blocked me in an alley, betting on whether I would use a knife to kill someone like my father did if they provoked me enough. It was during summer vacation, with hardly anyone left at school, and even the cafeteria was closed. I had come out to buy dinner, but unexpectedly became their target. The bullies prodded me with the handle of a knife, mocking me with disdain. Why doesn't the daughter of a murderer dare to lift her head? Take out a knife, kill someone, just like your dad. If he shows up, should we call him Big Brother? We don't dare to kill people, haha. A group of ignorant thugs. I was surrounded by them, helpless, just hoping they would get tired and leave. But they weren't planning to give up. They took my dinner and waved it in front of my eyes. Do you want this? I timidly pleaded, please, give it back to me. If you want it, come and get it. They passed my dinner between them, and I, like a monkey being toyed with, couldn't reach it. I huddled in the corner, crying bitterly, thinking, if only I had a home, parents would come out to look for their children who hadn't come home by this time. A child with someone to back them up would dare to fight back. I longed for someone to protect me from bullying. Amidst their laughter, someone shouted, "The police are here." The group of thugs fled in unison, leaving my dinner smashed on the ground, mixed with trash. As I sobbed and walked towards the school, someone lightly patted me on the back. Turning around, I saw a freshly cooked plate of fried noodles. Li was sitting on a bicycle, smiling at me. This noodle shop is pretty good. Let me treat you. He didn't mention the just now incident at all, chatting casually about the upcoming summer training and preparing for the September competition. As we neared the dormitory building, he said, "I'm pretty bored alone. Can you have dinner with me here tomorrow?" After saying it, he seemed to regret it, turning his face away and patting his own mouth disdainfully. He seemed to think his proposal was a bit abrupt. But I smiled through my tears and readily agreed, saying, Okay, I was too lonely. How could someone longing for warmth refuse the sun? Li Yi didn't lie. As athletes, they had to attend training sessions, so they stayed on campus. We would have our meals at restaurants near the school, and whenever we bumped into schoolmates, they would tease us. They exaggeratedly called me sister-in-law, and I always looked confused. Li Yi would sternly shoo them away, threatening them in a low voice, "Don't call her that. If you make her angry, I'll hold you accountable." Li Yi ate quickly, and once he finished, he would stare blankly at me. His mouth, however, kept moving. Sometimes he'd ask, "Why are you eating so little? No wonder you're so thin." And then he'd say, "Being thin is also good. Being a little chubby is fine too." I replied, "Because you keep talking to me, that's why I eat slowly." He quieted down for a moment, but soon started talking again. "School is starting, and we'll be in our second year of high school. Have you decided what major you want to pursue in college?" Before I could respond, he continued, "With your grades, you can choose anything you want." I didn't answer. Actually, the major wasn't important to me. I just wanted to leave this place and shed the title of the daughter of a murderer. I asked him, "What about you?"
Li similet somehat embarras sedli.
"I want to take the police academy entrance exam. My dad always hoped I'd become a policeman, but then he disappeared, and my mom left because she found our family too poor. But I still want to try to become a police officer. I don't want to disappoint my dad." I knew that our city was close to Myanmar, and many people would be tempted to cross the border into Myanmar to seek their fortune. Most of the missing people disappeared for this reason. Li Yi probably knew this too, so when he mentioned his father, there was a hint of regret on his face. I finished the last bite of my meal, patted his shoulder, and said to him, "You will definitely succeed and become an excellent police officer." He shyly smiled, secretly saluting me with a non-standard gesture. I think I will always remember Li Yi at 16, such a pure teenager with such simple dreams. Before the college entrance exam, there was a junior schoolmate who was studying art and had been pestering Li Yi. Despite his refusals, she didn't stop. But one time, after a major exam, she cornered him in the hallway. Unable to refuse anymore, Li saw me approaching and quickly made an excuse. "This is my girlfriend now. Please stop bothering me." The junior schoolmate didn't believe him. I took the opportunity to loop my arm through Li Yi's, speaking clearly, "Yes, we're together now." The junior schoolmate's eyes widened in disbelief. I was wondering why our acting skills were so poor that we couldn't fool her at all. When we turned around, we saw the disciplinary teacher, and then it dawned on me why the junior schoolmate had fled like a rabbit. The teacher called both Li Yi and me to the office and solemnly lectured us about how early relationships were detrimental to our studies. Li stood in front of me, stiffly blocking my view, and said with a straight face, "Teacher, it was me who forced Yen to be in a relationship with me. If you want to punish someone, punish me." I tugged at his sleeve timidly and raised my hand. "Teacher," I volunteered. The teacher rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. All right, don't act like you're the next Romeo and Juliet. Go back and study. If I find out that your grades have dropped, I'll find a way to punish you." Even now, when Li Yi and I talk on the phone and reminisce about that time, we both burst into laughter. That summer, we secretly held hands in the hallway, silently acknowledging the affection in each other's hearts. Together, we supported each other through the final moments of our senior year. I managed to get into a prestigious university in a coastal city, but unfortunately, Li didn't get into the police academy as he had hoped. On the day I boarded the high-speed train, Li gave me the new phone he had just bought. The phone number of the SIM card was easy to remember, differing from his by only one digit. "When I get my salary, I'll come see you," he said. In that small town, besides him, there was nothing I couldn't bear to part with. I cried a lot and said to him, "After graduation, we'll get married, and you'll come find me." Indeed, we got married right after graduation, but not to each other. In college, my roommate Jejia and I were very close. She was a local and got along with everyone quickly. When she found out about my boyfriend, who hadn't even passed the college entrance exam, she felt very sorry for me. She couldn't understand why I would hold on to a man with only a high school diploma when there were plenty of handsome and eligible men at school. She guessed if it was because he was very handsome and asked to see his photo. It was then that I realized Li Yi and I didn't even have a single picture together. By the time I was in my sophomore year, Li still hadn't come to see me. He always seemed busy, and his phone was always busy too. I would receive things he sent me at different times, with vague addresses, but they didn't bring me as much comfort as a simple, heartfelt greeting. The television frequently reported on fraud cases, and northern Myanmar became a terrifying place. Even my hometown of Nanjing was implicated, labeled as closely related to northern Myanmar. I was afraid Li Yi would stray down the wrong path, afraid he would end up like his father, disappearing without a trace. The anxiety was magnified, and the emotions of a long-distance relationship were particularly torturous. Judge said, "Next week is Qixi Festival. Your boyfriend has been working for 2 years now and should have saved some money. Ask him to come see you and treat us to dinner in the dormitory." I wanted to see Li Yi more than anyone else, but his phone was always busy. In the end, I called him at 3 in the morning. "Li Yi, come see me on Qixi Festival." I made a request to him without any reservations for the first time. It was quiet on the other end of the line, and Li's voice sounded tired. He said, "I'm not worthy of you, Yen Yen. Let's break up. If there are better guys pursuing you, consider it. You deserve someone better. Don't let me stand in your way." I was so sad I couldn't breathe properly and angrily said, "Fine." That was the last time I heard Li's voice. After that, I never managed to get through to his phone again. That summer, I returned to Nanjing for a visit. The people in town said Li Yi probably followed in his father's footsteps and went to northern Myanmar to make a fortune. They had seen him hanging out with some shady characters from northern Myanmar before. My youth ended at that moment, and I left the small town without any attachment. I agreed to date Judge's cousin, Zhao Hao. In fact, Zhao Hao had been pursuing me for a long time, but I always refused, telling him I had a boyfriend. But Judge kept pouring cold water on the situation. "That boyfriend of yours is hardly around, like a phantom. He's practically an online friend. I think you're still a spinster, never really had a boyfriend at all." Jejia was outspoken, and I blushed, covering her mouth and telling her not to say anymore. Zhao Hao often came to the school to have dinner with Jejia, and she always brought me along. Over time, we got acquainted. I just didn't understand why Zhao Hao suddenly started pursuing me. It wasn't until graduation when Zhao Hao proposed to me that he said, "My mom always hoped I would marry a pure girl and bring her home. Being able to marry you is my blessing." His words made me feel uncomfortable, but I couldn't articulate why. After drifting without roots for too long, what I longed for the most was a home. So, I married Zhao Hao. 2 years later, we divorced. I rented a single apartment not far from Jejia's home. I filled the window with gardenia flowers, and the lingering fragrance made me feel like I could make a home for myself even when living alone. I tried to call Li's phone, but the same cold automated voice informed me, "The number you dialed is not in service." He appeared briefly, then disappeared again. I began to apply for jobs frequently, moving between various companies like any fresh graduate seeking employment. When I received news that one company had accepted my interview and wanted me to start tomorrow, I was ecstatic, like a child who had aced an exam. On a workday, during the morning rush hour on the bus, passengers were discussing the latest news in the city. I heard that when dredging the river, they found an arm that hadn't fully decomposed yet. There were tattoos on the arm, but a portion of it was severely damaged, leading some to speculate it was deliberately mutilated after a murder. It's currently known to have been separated from a female corpse, and the police are still investigating the specifics. As autumn approached, the air turned slightly chilly, and such horrifying news made my heart tense, causing me to unconsciously rub my arms. I interviewed for a job as a property caretaker, a simple job with relatively good colleague relationships. After finishing work for the day, the supervisor suggested we have a meal together to welcome me. A group of us went to the restaurant, and after a few men finished their drinks, they couldn't stop chatting. By the time the dinner ended, it was already 11 o'clock. I missed the last bus, so I searched for a nearby shared bike to ride back. As someone who is somewhat night blind, while I was stooped over looking for something, someone bumped into my back. A drunken woman pushed me down onto the main road, causing my knees to scrape and bleed. "What are you doing here? You're getting in the way." Under the dim streetlights, she raised her handbag as if to strike me. Instinctively, I reached out my arm to block, but a tall figure emerged from the darkness and forcefully grabbed the woman's hand. The woman, still somewhat intoxicated, leaned against him affectionately and sweetly called out, "Brother Wang, why did you come out?" "I've had too much to drink. I'll go inside to be with you in a moment." "Please don't come out. Xiaomei doesn't know where she went. Xiaoli just took office and is very fierce." The woman had drunk too much. Her words were slurred. However, my attention was fully drawn to the man in front of me. How long had it been since we last met? For years in university, 2 years after graduation, since we parted at the bus station, not counting the replay in the monitoring room. Li Yi and I hadn't seen each other for 6 whole years. He had a faint blue tattoo on his arm. I couldn't make out if it was a dragon or a tiger. I couldn't even discern his expression. It was just an inexplicable feeling, as if he had always been behind me, but I never turned around. Li hoisted up the woman like a little chicken and headed towards the back door of the bar, where the lights were flashing. From behind, they looked very intimate. With a cigarette dangling from his fingers, Ash fell at my feet. He didn't look at me, just leaned down and said to the woman, "It's not safe lately. Don't walk alone at night. Obstructing someone's path is not a trivial matter." His words seemed to be directed at me. Outside the back door of the bar, a sharp female voice muttered, "That darn girl, always taking her time. She only drank a few bottles and then disappeared. Sister Li, stop scolding her, she's back." I recognized it was Xiaoli, Judge's colleague, the one who got into Zhao Hao's car that day. I didn't know if Xiaoli was the woman's real name. I didn't know how many names a person could have in their lifetime. I also didn't know why Li became Brother Wang, and why we met but didn't recognize each other. In the dream of Zhou Wang, I couldn't tell if I was Zhou Wang or the butterfly. I pedaled my bike with all my strength, tears streaming down my face in the wind, forgetting to wipe them away. I spent the night in a daze, and the next day, I went to work listlessly. My colleagues also looked worn out from last night's indulgence, each one with drooping heads. At 10:15 in the morning, someone knocked on the door. I was the first to stand up, only to find police officers in uniform. "Is this Miss Zhang Yanyan?" I nodded in response. "Yes." "What is your relationship with Ms. Su Jejia?" I answered truthfully. "We were college roommates, also friends." The police pulled out a police report, stating that the female body found in the river had been confirmed to be Su Jejia through DNA testing. Jejia was dead. Shocked and afraid, I couldn't believe that our hurried farewell that day turned out to be our last meeting. Through investigations, the police determined that the day I saw Jejia was the day she was murdered. I was taken to the police station for questioning. Inside the police station, everyone who had contact with Jejia gathered together. Many girls around my age, who had met her during her matchmaking days in college, were there. Most of them had entered into marriage through her introductions. "This is my husband's distant cousin. We get along pretty well." In almost everyone's statement, I heard a phrase like this. I couldn't help but feel stunned, realizing that something was amiss. The late arrival of the boss from the matchmaking agency finally solved the mystery. Jejia didn't have any significant family connections. Instead, she used the identity of a cousin to gain the trust of clients, match them, and collect substantial intermediary fees. As for me, I was just one of the many ordinary clients during her matchmaking days. Many people criticized Jejia for her deceit, but when they learned of her murder and dismemberment, they couldn't find the right words to say. When questioned, I disclosed everything I knew, hoping to help the police solve the case quickly. After the investigation, however, I didn't see that woman, Xiaoli, in the lobby. Just as I was about to remind them, I saw Li Yi and several tough-looking individuals dressed like hooligans outside the police station, seemingly keeping watch. After arguing with the security guard at the entrance, they left. An uneasy feeling surged within me. Even when I returned to the office, I couldn't shake off the unease. The news began to spread, and my colleagues speculated that it was Judge's matchmaking schemes that had caused trouble, along with cursing various unscrupulous intermediaries in different industries. The quiet college dormitory groups became lively again because of Judge's affair. I saw the dormitory head tag me, and when I clicked on it, the dormitory head said, "Yen Yen, Judge used to speak ill of your ex-boyfriend several times before. I even saw her sneakily taking pictures of you and Zhao Hao together, then secretly sending them to your ex-boyfriend via your phone. I used to think she wanted to introduce you to a good man to save you from distress, but I didn't expect it was all for money." It felt like a bolt of lightning struck my head, connecting something together. On the day of my accident and miscarriage, it was also the day of Judge's accident. And Li Yi also appeared that day, leaving mysteriously after paying my hospital bills. I couldn't help but wonder if Li Yi, stimulated by what happened with Jejia all those years ago, held a grudge and impulsively committed the crime. But my instincts told me that Li Yi wasn't that kind of person. Even though he had been missing for 4 years and refused to acknowledge me, I believed that the person who once vowed to join the police academy wouldn't turn into a ruthless criminal. At night, almost instinctively, I found myself back on that road again. I wanted to try my luck and see if I could meet Li Yi. Instead, I saw the sealed-off intersection, with police officers investigating the bar and the surrounding foot massage parlors. When I returned home, I also noticed that there were many police officers downstairs at the apartment where Jejia used to live. The truth began to surface, with the first revelation being the wanted posters plastered all over the city featuring Zhao Hao's photo. Shortly afterward, the profession Jejia was involved in and the crimes behind it were all exposed by the police. Initially, Jejia was just doing matchmaking work. After graduation, dissatisfied with the slow income, she colluded with several people to open a small foot massage parlor. Soon, Jejia wasn't satisfied with the income from legitimate foot massages. By chance, she got involved with criminals from northern Myanmar. Using money as bait, she deceived men who craved female company and women who sought easy gains, secretly smuggling them across the border into northern Myanmar, where they became pawns under the control of a fraud group. The woman named Xiao Li was initially just one of Jejia's subordinates. Due to her ruthless methods, she harbored ambitions to rise up and didn't want to remain under Jejia's thumb. The appearance of Zhao Hao that day became an opportunity. That day, Xiao Li went out secretly with Zhao Hao behind Jejia's back to conduct a transaction. She wanted to complete this task alone, deceive Zhao Hao into going to northern Myanmar alone, and gain the trust of the higher-ups. But Jejia was a sharp person who noticed something was amiss and followed them to the hotel. In the ensuing struggle, Xiao Li accidentally strangled Jejia to death. As a bystander, Zhao Hao panicked. In a moment of confusion, he listened to Xiao Li and together they secretly transported Jejia's body back to her apartment, dismembered it, and dumped it into the river. No wonder Zhao Hao was so panicked that day. After killing Jejia, Xiao Li didn't stop there. She took the opportunity to take over Jejia's position and worked even harder to recruit people under her, deceiving people from all over the country into joining their scheme for personal gain. The online revelation that northern Myanmar was a den of evil turned out to be the work of someone with a black heart, pushing their compatriots into the den of evil for their own selfish desires. Knowing everything, I felt incredibly conflicted. The murder case happened right under my nose, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. But what about Li Yi? What role did he play in all of this? Zhao Hao was quickly apprehended and detained on charges of murder. I had no intention of staying in that city any longer, so I resigned from my job and returned to Nantown. Unexpectedly, the place I had always wanted to escape from became my chosen destination. I renovated my old home and filled the balcony with sunflowers. In truth, Nantown had great weather, perfect for gardening. I started working at the orphanage where Li Yi had stayed. The children affectionately called me Auntie Zhang. A few mischievous boys imitated soldiers raising the national flag on TV, saying they wanted to become soldiers and serve the country. One boy said, "Then I want to attend the largest police academy in Nantown." Unexpectedly, my nose tingled with emotion as I remembered that bright teenager. Another year passed. Was Li Yi doing well? The town organized a visit to the Martyrs Cemetery for educational purposes. I went with the school teachers and children to pay respects. As we passed many unnamed tombstones, the children asked in confusion, "Why aren't there any names engraved on them?" An elderly police officer with a cane explained, "Children, these are all unnamed heroes. They concealed their identities to protect our country, dealing with dangerous criminals every day to gather intelligence. Some criminals seek revenge on them by targeting their families. To protect our unnamed heroes, we don't engrave their names." A sensitive girl began to cry, saying, "The bad guys are really bad. Grandpa Feng, you must punish them." Officer Feng saluted solemnly. "Yes, we will make sure they face justice." At the end of the visit, I stood at the end of the line, escorting the children away. As we passed an unnamed tombstone, the flowers in front of it were blown away by the wind, scattering at my feet. My heart suddenly beat slowly. I knelt down, carefully gathering the fallen petals and burying them in the nearby soil. The lead teacher reminded me, "Xiaozhang, don't fall behind." I hurried to catch up, but couldn't help looking back. It seemed like someone was calling my name. When the gardenias bloomed, it was my birthday. There was a knock on the door and I had a faint guess about who it might be. Sure enough, Officer Feng, leaning on his cane, handed me a bouquet of flowers. "Teacher Xiaozhang, on behalf of someone else, I wish you a happy birthday." I couldn't say a word of thanks, choked up and just nodded. Officer Feng said, "Combating fraud in Burma has always been our country's top priority. People online say that Chinese people don't deceive each other, but they don't know that it's these Chinese individuals, deceived by their own desires and sent to Burma, who are deceiving us Chinese." Li Yi is a hero. From the day he entered the police academy, he wholeheartedly joined this anti-fraud operation, becoming an undercover agent inside the Burma fraud syndicate. He inherited his father's police badge and became an undercover agent planted by the police within the Burma fraud syndicate. I was already in tears, repeatedly saying, "He passed the exam, didn't he? I knew it. He worked so hard. He must have passed." Officer Feng's eyes filled with pity. "I know this child has never had an easy life. I've watched him grow up almost every step of the way. At the beginning, I couldn't bear it either. I discussed with him whether to tell you or not. You mean a lot to him, and he didn't want to worry you. He couldn't bear to see you sad. He'd rather you be happy with someone else. I asked him if he would stop if you knew everything. He told me that you would want him to be brave." I listened quietly to Officer Feng, hearing about the Li Yi who existed when I wasn't around. But that kid was stubborn. He didn't want to worry you. He didn't want you to suffer because of him. I almost couldn't bear it when he first joined. He asked me about leaving the undercover mission. I knew he sacrificed a lot over these years, his freedom, his name, even you. I couldn't selfishly use national righteousness to bind him. I also wished he could return to a normal life. After all, I owed his father my life. But it was almost, just almost. After the leader named Shaoli was captured, the criminal organization began a widespread crackdown. Li Yi had been undercover for so many years, providing the organization with so much valuable intelligence, which had long aroused the vigilance of the criminals. The organization had already approved his return to normal life after completing the final mission, but unfortunately, he couldn't outpace the criminals' guns. The TV reported that the police had extradited another group of individuals involved in the Burma case. I knew Li Yi had contributed to this. Officer Feng left Li Yi's cell phone, the one he used to contact him, with me. In the old phone, I saw the deliberately taken photos of me and Zhao Hao, along with some hurtful words about Li Yi, saying he wasn't worthy of me. I dared not think about how Li Yi felt when he saw those. There was an unsent text message saved in the drafts, with me as the recipient. I opened the message, just a few words, but they made my heart skip a beat. "Let's go home." On my birthday, I cried out all my remaining weakness. From then on, I took root in Nantown, contributing to my home. In my spare time, I promoted anti-fraud knowledge online. In the face of baseless insults, I calmly educated the detractors. Nantown had the longest border line in China, and its police academy ranked high nationwide. Every year, countless heroes sacrificed their young lives to guard the border's peace. Heroes deserve respect and cannot be slandered. Li Yi, from now on, you protect the country and I'll protect you.